ever do something for the money that you loved so much you'd do it for nothing? Even if you went broke and didn't regret a moment of it. It was November, with a constant drizzle of rain, the temperature of the grave. My current labor of love was to sit in the director's chair at a local community theater. We would present in all its low-budget glory Charles Dickens's immortal A Christmas Carol, come December 15th through the 23rd, with an afternoon half-price matinee and closing night gala on Christmas Eve. That's what the ads read anyway. Directed by J. Artemis, if anyone gave a hoot in hell, that was me. I wasn't exactly a household name in the city, or any other for that matter. My name and $5 would get you a cup of coffee almost anywhere, but you really only needed the $5. We were already broke. 3 of my actors were living full-time at the theater, unbeknownst to the landlord. Our insurance had expired, but only the producer and I knew that. My other landlord at my apartment building called herself a patron of the arts and kept my cast and crew fed with sandwiches and homemade pie. That is indeed a patron. Actors will live on pie, bad coffee, beer, and cigarettes, unless someone insists on at least one semi-healthy meal a day. That was me too, for now. My day job, being one of the few of our troupe that enjoyed one, was cabbie for a place downtown. I used my own car for routine call-in fares, or drove one of the companies for event rentals. By night, I was in showbiz, and damn near worn out. That, however, was only my weekdays. Today was Saturday, and I'd be at the theater most of it, holding auditions for a couple of minor roles I had to recast. Both actors called in with predictably identical cases of the blackout flu. Luckily, they had homes at which to stay put. One of my secret live-ins would spread it to the entire cast. That was the worst part of my week, or so I thought. I'd then been texted by the theater building's owner. He was selling it, and needed us out by the end of January. We had tons of costumes, props, lighting arrays, audio rigs, seats, and only God knew what all, to either find new storage for, sell, or broken-heartedly haul to the dump. I hadn't yet told anyone. My life in the arts would soon again be on hold, indefinitely. I'd restart working both days and nights to get back to a paid-for, mundane existence. I had no such ready life coaching for my actors or crew. Performing was all that some of them did, or even had an aptitude for. Private one-on-ones usually ended with my bleating, "God, learn to work a cash register, anything, something to keep a roof over you." I always got variations of the same artistic indignation. They just weren't cut out for common employment, the ongoing complaint. I'd reply that I was sorry their lives weren't providing exactly what their hopes and dreams dictated. Mine wasn't either. Life was about to let us down yet again, but today the only urgent task was watching fresh faces act their hearts out, for 2 parts not much bigger than walk-ons. No Broadway careers would likely launch here today. I still loved it. I sat alone, in the second row of the smallish auditorium, a bare stage lit before me, and waited. I had notices posted around town and online. If nobody showed up, I'd have to either spread my tiny cast even thinner, or edit down the script somehow, which I hated, especially a script as rich as Dickens. The wait could get boring. I'd come prepared with reading material, my battered copy of Robert Grayline's book, Zodiac Uncloaked. This was my 4th reread, or my 5th, my 6th. I'd read his first book, The Real Zodiac, until it had come apart in my hands. I was again in one of my conspiracy grooves. Sometimes it was national park disappearances, sometimes UFOs, Jack the Ripper, the Philadelphia Experiment, JFK, the Illuminati. I was back full circle to being temporarily obsessed with the Zodiac Killer. I'd watched every document on YouTube. I knew the case forward and backward, at least as far as what those who'd actually done the footwork and math had revealed in the mass media. I'd spent the last few weeks reading again little swatches at a time. During rehearsal breaks, I'd chatted up most of the crew. They'd stopped bringing it up. I was too huge a know-it-all. Being a purveyor of theater, which I considered as life celebrated, I couldn't fathom anyone hating life as much as this unknown whoever he was had. Someone smart or lucky enough to avoid identification, much less capture, despite being a wet sack assaulted crazy with mustard on it otherwise, leaving in his crime's wake a dozen suspects with convincing, if circumstantial, evidence connecting them to the despicable acts, as far as anyone professional or amateur could determine, and none of them actually him. Footsteps echoed along with voices in the lobby. I heard audition mentioned and yelled, "In here!" as loud as I could without projecting a note of intimidation. I plopped the dog-eared book into the seat next to me and extracted a blank audition form from my satchel. A woman stepped onto the stage, leading a small boy, still bundled for the weather in a bulky raincoat, and was that an artist's beret? Lovely. "Which one of you?" I asked. "Him," she said, smiling. I held forth an audition form. The boy remained on stage, staring wide-eyed up at me. Mom took a step forward for the sheet of paper. I asked, "Is this his first audition?" "No," she answered, "but we're hoping for a first casting. His name is Tom." "Ah," I merely sighed. "What does Tom have? A monologue? Or would he like to read sides, a page or two from the show?" He looked too young to have a prepared monologue. But that beret looked darn serious. "I can read," the boy said plainly. Good, a dash of self-confidence, I thought to myself. I handed his mother the pertinent page from an unbound script. "Let's work it, Tom," I added, with a grinning tone of eagerness and a drop of professional camaraderie aimed at him. "Your lines are yellow, highlighted. I'll read Scrooge's part and you jump in, okay?" Tom smiled back and nodded a little boy nod. Mom gave him the page and watched on with a silent gleam at him. He stood waiting for his cue, the little pro. I already had a Tiny Tim, and I was beginning to regret it. I knew I was going to cast this kid on his ambiance alone, but he was here to earn it, and I was happy to humor him. I began. "I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm quite a baby. Hello! Woof! Hello there!" I laid my old Brit on thick, hoping he'd pick it up. I was not disappointed. "You there, boy!" "Who, me, sir?" he responded, quick on the draw. Passable accent, a bit cartoony, but... "What's today?" "Today? Why, Christmas Day." "Christmas Day, I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. They can do anything they like, of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow." "Hello." "Do you know the poulterers in the next street?" "Well, I should hope I did." Oh, I was already into this kid. "An intelligent boy. Do you know if they've sold the prize turkey in the window? Not the little turkey, but the great big one." "The one what's big as me?" "A delightful boy, yes, my buck." "It's hanging there now." "Is it? Go and buy it." "Walker." "Thank you," I blurted. The audition was done. He looked up from the sheet at me, a note of disappointment on his face. Mom sighed gently and gave him a sorrowful wink of understanding and unflinching motherly support in the face of what they assumed was another brave, fruitless attempt. "Can he make all the performance dates?" I asked. "And can he come back tomorrow afternoon for the costumer to fit him?" The mother's stare was instant and bewildered. Little Tom's eyes grew the size of baseballs. "I got it?" his tiny voice asked. "You got it," I said mightily. "Well done, sir. Free up your calendar. I need you here." Tom's smile was suddenly annoyingly epic. The young man would soon have his first resume entry as a bona fide stage thespian. "Oh, thank you," his mother sighed. "He'll be on time, and he'll be, off book, too." "No worries. The show's lead isn't off book yet," I said, barreling straight into prep mode. "He'll be fine. Rehearsal will be lightweight. Have him here on the dot, a half hour before curtain. He'll get in costume and made up during the first act and be ready for his cue in the second." "Do I get a dressing room?" the boy said softly. "You'll share," I told him, holding a game face against a sudden need to giggle, with the grown-up actors. One of my grown-ups had stood in the door watching, in old blue jeans and a red Misfits shirt. "He can share my table." Billy Thatcher was the aforementioned lead in the show. Only 26, he was a miracle maker on stage, the likes of which I'd rarely seen. He could make up as anything from a Greek god Mischief to a crotchety old Englishman with a hair-trigger temper. The only thing he couldn't do was latch onto a situation out in the real world. "Will people be in a state of undress back there?" the mother asked. "No, ma'am," answered Billy. "We hardly get down past our skivvies. I'll watch out for him." Billy was a great salesman, despite himself. Often there were actors prancing around buck-ass nude in the dressing area during a show. It would be difficult, but I knew Billy could manage, even with the kid's mother breathing down his neck. "That way Tom and I can run our lines backstage while we're dressing, huh, dude?" Tom beamed his smile at Billy. "How can I thank you enough?" the mother spoke. "He has so wanted to be in a show." "Well, he's in one now," I said, selling an upbeat tone akin to Billy's. "Just fill out the form and give it to whoever's in the front kiosk. Get a script and a rehearsal schedule from them, too." "He'll be here," she said. Tom waved so long, following his mother down the hall like a jockey who'd just won the Preakness. "He's pretty good for so young," I commented to Billy, adjusting my numb ass in the seat. "Do I get a dressing room?" I finally let loose the chuckle I'd been holding back. "Who else we need?" Billy asked. "A third rag picker," I breathed, now somewhat deflated. "I doubt one's going to magically appear." "My uncle might be available," Billy said. "Can he come on in a wheelchair? Do we even have a period wheelchair?" "I'd like a woman for it," I sighed. "Wouldn't we all like a woman for it?" said Billy. "Oh, here." He handed me a folded Post-it. The folded ends were stuck together. Apparently the writing was inside the fold. I took it and pried the ends open. "You know, you can just stick these on my message board open flat, right?" It seemed important. The guy told me to give it to you ASAP. "The guy?" "On the phone," said Billy. "Someone who wants to audition?" "No, he wants a ride somewhere. I told him it was your day off, but he kept on. Asked for you by name." "I told the dispatcher not to give out this number," I complained, reading the smeared note. Alex was the only name. "Urgent. Need driver. Top dollar. Today." And a phone number. "I have an audition to run, as advertised." There was nobody exactly beating a path to our door, and I could hardly pass up easy money. "Take it," Billy said. "I can handle it here if anyone else shows up." "Serious?" I asked. "Go, I got this," he cut me off. "Make $1 for a change." I handed Billy the stack of blank forms and was out the door into the miserable winter wetness. I thumb-dialed the number on the note. It was answered as I got to my car. "Mr. Artemis," spoke a creaky voice into my ear. "You got me," I said. "Where do you need to go?" "I'm out front of the Sandcastle Inn on Port Street. I'll tell you the destination when you get here. It's not far, just a bit complicated." The Sandcastle had the highest room rates on the west side, even on weekends. "I can be there in about 5 minutes. Stay dry." "I'll be fine. Just get here," the voice said, and the call ended. As I pulled up, Out into the downpour strode an elderly man in a stunningly expensive-looking suit. Its front began to speckle with dark raindrops. He had to be freezing and becoming soaked as I got out to take his suitcase. I opened the passenger door for him. "Get in, I'll get your bag." He climbed into the car without a word as I lugged the case into the back seat. I got in and locked the doors. He pulled his seatbelt down over his chest. "You're a hard man to track down," he wheezed. "I called 3 other cab services." The engine was running. I pulled us out into the street and headed for the intersection up ahead. "Do I know you?" I asked. "Nope," said he. "I know you, though. Enough, anyway." That left me all but speechless. I gulped and spat out, "Where am I taking you, Mr. Alex?" "My first name is all you need. I don't want to go anywhere in particular. I just want to drive around a little. See the sights? If it's all the same to you." "You want to sightsee? That's all? It's pouring rain. There isn't much to see." "What rain? You're shitting me," he snarked with an old man grin. "I'll make it worth your while. Top dollar, like I told your friend over the phone." "It's just that any driver can do this for you. I was told you asked for me by name. And you haven't explained how you know me, but I don't know you." "You'd be surprised how well you can get to know someone if you talk to the right people. And cross their palms with a big enough wad of cash and free lunch. Or maybe you wouldn't be that surprised." "You bribed someone for information on me? Why?" "I'm rich, Mr. Artemis. Filthy. It's how I do things most folks can't. I'm just not much longer for this world, that's all. I haven't time to screw around anymore. Don't freak out too hard. I wasn't looking for you specifically at first. In fact, I didn't even realize I was looking for anybody until I overheard some young folks talking about you in a restaurant, where I proceeded to pay for their meal and give them a little extra mad money to hear more." "Oh," I merely said. "Well, it was an honest explanation. I'm sorry about your condition, Alex. My pancreas, stage 4, the doc says. I'm fighting it, but no one my age wins this battle." I began to wonder if I was just chauffeuring around some old guy whacking out on his meds. "I'm okay with it. Don't be sorry," he continued. "I've had a hell of a go. 87 my next birthday, if I live to see it." He was smiling. If those were his real teeth, they were astonishingly well kept. "These people you talked with, they knew me? We stopped for a red light." "Damn obvious, you think?" It turned green and Alex shook his head. "Turn either way, I don't give a rat's ass. Take me somewhere pretty, even in this pisser of a storm." We turned right, and he let out a soft sigh. I got a whiff of his pungent aftershave. "They were part of your crew at that theater of yours. I decided right then you were the guy I needed to talk to." "So much for team loyalty, eh?" I joked. "Oh, it was nothing bad, not even personal. It's not like they blabbed which hand you jerk off with." I coughed once. "So let me in on it. Why am I so interesting to you?" "You're eyeball deep into the Zodiac murders." I pulled to the shoulder of the road and nearly locked up the brakes. "I'm what?" "Oh, don't misunderstand," he said. "You're into freaky shit. The paranormal, conspiracies, mysteries, all that. They told me you knew the Zodiac case inside and out. You've read every damn book, seen every damn video, that you could talk the ears off a brass mule about it for hours without a comma." I carefully pulled back into traffic. I felt a sudden need to change the subject. "I know, let's take the coast road. Maybe we can catch some elephant seals. Despite the rain. Fighting or mating, there's not much difference." "Yes, sir, now you're talking," Alex trumpeted. "That would make my afternoon, watching some live, enormous beast porn. Humping in a panic like they're the last two of their species. Lead on, my good man." Pow. I hoped his mind was thus off the Zodiac killer. I had no such luck, I soon realized. Artemis, I would bet you the showroom retail sticker price of this very automobile that I'm the only person in this entire city who knows more about Zodiac than even you. You sure about that? I dreaded his answer. I'm positively sure. He took a long breath. I even know Zodiac. A slight grin formed on my lips. There's got to be at least 1,000 people who say they know who he was. Few even claim their fathers were Zodiac, their uncles, and I didn't just say I knew who he was, I said I know him. What do you mean exactly? I've been in the same room, had face-to-face conversations with Zodiac. Oh, I see. I hoped I didn't sound too snarky. He didn't seem to be about to pull a knife or a gun. I still wanted my top dollar fare for this little excursion. There were no elephant seals out. We drove on a few more miles. The waves were huge and foamy. The rain intensified, much to the chagrin of my overworked wipers. I think we'd better turn back soon, I groaned lowly. I am determined to impress you with my unique connection, he said, looking right at me. I can prove exactly what I'm telling you. Really? I asked. Alex, so far you've sounded just like the rest of us odd ducks, only a step deeper into the pond, if you get my drift. I just called him a whack job, but I spoke it with a friendly smile on my face. How much would 10 more miles cost? He asked suddenly. Whatever it is, I'll double it. Well, I did a quick mental calculation of the risk I was willing to endure in this torrent. Better, he said. I'll buy your damn theater. I can afford it. You won't have to move. You can stay there forever. Put on any damn show you please, from now till doomsday. How did you know it was on the block? I know my people couldn't have told you. I never told them. A little bird told me. We have a deal or not? I thought for a skipped heartbeat. Where to? My house. Your house? We're still not that far from the Sandcastle Inn. Your house is within 10 miles? Yes, he said. Dressing up and going to town wears me out in my condition. I usually just get a room when I'm out all day like this anymore. It's only money. Your house, not just a rental house, but your actual home we're talking about. Where I live. Take me there and I'll show you something that will prove it all. I'll show you Zodiac. Zodiac is at your house? In a manner of speaking, yeah. My fascination with Alex was now a swirling tide pool of curiosity, anticipation, and a slight creeping sense of mortal terror. I think he saw it in my stare ahead at the swamped road. Don't fret, Artemis. I promise you'll be safely in your bed tonight, still very much alive. There's no ambush waiting for you. I'm a harmless old rich white man, the only one alive who knows what I know. But when I go, this special intel goes with me, unless I pass it on to someone. I think you genuinely appreciate it, being almost as big a Z-nut as myself. You might even do some good with it, unlike me. I took a slow breath, thinking. I'm giving you a free pass into the Forbidden Knowledge Club. How can an aficionado like yourself turn up a nose at that? I was hooked, but not left of my senses. You'll buy the theater in full? I can start planning next year's season rather than packing it in? Hell yes, done. With your name on the paperwork to boot, nobody the wiser. We're able to sell it out from under you. I can do that. What say you? I gulped, unsure even what my next thought would be. I still wasn't sure I believed him, but not sure either if I believed my own thoughts at the moment. It's only money, he repeated. Show me where to turn. The journey ahead was slow due to the rain turning relentless without so much as a patch of let-up. Finally, through the wet, blurry grayness, he pointed me into a long driveway, up a hill toward a fortress-like house. I imagined it looked better in sunshine. The storm had wrought havoc. There'd be days of cleanup afterward. We got out carefully, I retrieved his case from the back seat and he produced the key to the front door. We were soon in his foyer and soaked to our underwear. His fine suit would be ruined if he didn't change out of it soon and get it to the cleaners. I pondered. He didn't seem concerned. His bald pate was now prominently visible beneath a layer of thin, soggy white hair. "Set the bag down and come along," he said. He led me through the house. It was bigger than it looked outside. The place wasn't exactly run down, just stagnant, like old wealth in repose, museum-like, an old empty church, spotless. It smelt of wood polish. We entered a library. A million books surrounded us on ornate oaken shelves. He moved cautiously to grab a cluster of books at once from one particular shelf about waist-high. Was he going to read me to sleep with some old tome of pieced-together evidence 50 years old? I certainly hoped not. He dropped the books to the floor with a flourishing crash. "In there," he said, pointing to the dull metal door of a wall safe behind the shelving where the removed books had stood. His aged fingers began working the combination. I waited, gazing about the room, still a bit wary that some attack could spring from some secret panel, and all I could think to do was run. I began trying to memory map my way back to the front door. Soon I heard the safe crack open. From the darkness, he pulled 4 medium-sized film tins, round and stacked neatly tied together, like the kind I remembered in high school back in the day. "These," he said ominously, as if that lone word contained all knowledge. He set the canisters down on a central table in the room and took a breath. "Are those full?" I said. He rested a trembling old hand on the stack of gray tins. "Let me tell you a little story," he said, his voice grown soft and feeble, as if he feared a librarian would shush him. "I've been rich my whole life. Never knew a day with an empty belly, or an unsatisfied whim, for that matter. I fulfilled every fantasy with my money, no matter how altruistic or dastardly." I stood listening, half bewildered. What exactly was in those canisters? "You and I were total strangers till today. I'd like you to hear my confession, Artemis. I got no family, no minister, but the deepest, darkest, empty place inside where I imagine a soul used to be. Will you listen to me? You're the only one left who will." I stared and nodded. "Okay, here we go," he sighed. "I belonged once to a club of extremely wealthy men, all of whom are now dead and in hell, Artemis. I'm all that's left. And now my number's up too, in a few more months, I figure. What these men and I did together, well, it was flat out beyond redemption. We were evil. I was evil. And I enjoyed it. I admit it. I'm woefully sorry now, looking into my own grave. But there's no forgiveness where I'm going." "No one is beyond hope, Alex," I said. "No, I am," he said. "Listen, one of the hell-bound assholes I paid a truckload of money to was a guy named Bobby Vonner. Sound familiar?" I shook my head no. "Good. Trust me, you'd regret knowing him to your dying day like I do. Anyway, he ran a theater, a movie house in Riverside, showed silent pictures, old B-movies, nothing wrong with that. But he had this side business that he kept below board, catered specifically to rich dirt bags like my friends and me. Made a damn fortune with it, too, never got caught. 100 different men could have turned him in, but we were addicts, hooked on what he sold." "Drugs?" "No," Alex said. "Come on, Mr. Conspiracy Buff. Think." My mind raced. He was, what, a human trafficker? You bought slaves? Underage ones? For porn? "You're warmer," said Alex. "You ever hear of snuff films?" "Well," I paused. "I've read about them. Never seen one. They're an urban legend. not even supposed to exist, do they? Alex nodded his head grimly and patted the film tins with his weathered palm. I stared at them with a whole new churning dread in my stomach. And I paid good money, not just to watch them, but to have my very own private batch, produced just for me. People meet their bloody actual demise on these films. I paid to have these custom made. These are the only prints. The negatives, I can only hope, were destroyed. This will sound brutally morbid of me, I uttered, but are they still watchable? Hell yes, Alex grunted. He trod over to a cabinet and flung it open. Inside sat a 16mm film projector, again just like those I recalled from high school. I'll throw in something to watch them on. You want me to watch those? Why not just burn them and be done with the whole mess once and for all? Because of what comes next, he said, and carried on with the terrible story. This Vonner fella, he had people working for him. A couple of soulless sons of bitch. One filmed the murders. His name was Rick Martin. The other was the hitman, the one who carried out the killings. His name was Art Leroy Alden. They primarily targeted young teen couples, out by themselves in a lover's lane or some other secluded kill spot. Shot them, stabbed them, whatever I ordered from Vonner, whatever I requested to see. That's insane, I heard my own voice speak. Vonner got this big idea, went off the reservation, as they say, Alex kept on. He started writing letters, bragging anonymously to the newspapers and to the police. He put coded clues in them from his codebreaker days in the army, some such shit. Those letters were the Zodiac ciphers, Artemis. Alex then began rattling off every detail, growing more frantic, as if trying to expel the words from his body as fast as possible, like they made his tongue burn. Vonner's handmade posters for the shows at his theater. Track those down. Vonner's handwriting is the Zodiacs. Vonner drew all the diagrams and maps for the bomb that never existed. The sick bastard even made up the threat about killing children on a school bus just to get a big laugh out of it on the cops. Martin started it too, phoning the police, writing on car doors, embellishing on Alden's dirty work, keeping score. All the weapons were traceable to Alden, but they couldn't nail him because the handwriting didn't match, nor the DNA samples off the envelopes years later. They could trace the prints to Martin, but couldn't link him to the weapons or the handwriting. They could connect Vonner to the handwriting, but couldn't find any connection to the prints or the weapons. He was never DNA tested because it hadn't been invented yet. Plus he had an alibi for every single one of the murders. He hadn't even been at the damn crime scenes. The chaos and media attention was considered value added by Vonner and his pals, a thrill ride. I footed the bill for all of it, because I wanted it, to get all of it filmed, to make it so nobody got caught. Me, Vonner, Martin, Alden, the four of us together were Zodiac. I stood silent. My next word wouldn't come. If you can stomach as much, he said, winding down, take the films and just watch a few. You'll see with your own eyes Alden himself gunning down Betty Lou Ronson, Mitch Reggio, Arthur Telladay, Darla Perrin, and the rest, even Peter Steinberg, the cab driver. Only they aren't reenactments, but the actual murders. Martin got them all in living color. You'll know you've read everything, seen everything, except these. You'll see the real damn Zodiac at work. What nobody else but me and a few other dead men have ever seen. Zodiac was a team of killers, constantly dividing the trail, making every turn a dead end. But the name Zodiac made him a lone culprit to the cops and reporters who never caught on because they'd never consider anything else. All courtesy of yours truly. I headed back to my car. with the film cans under my arm, the projector case hanging from my other hand, and a bonus roll of $100 bills in my pocket, wrapped in a handwritten, signed promissory note from Alex to phone a realtor tomorrow and bid on the theater building. At least I knew his full name now. I hated myself. I had to see his films. I made a promise to Alex, though. His farewell to me at his front door was, "Don't bring the cops here. It's way too late, and I have a funeral to plan." But he had said something else, very unsettling, before I left. "Don't ever let on that you have these in your possession. Anybody. There are people who know things, who know me, whom I pay off when I can't just avoid the scumbags altogether. If you talk, they'll get wind of it. They always do. Don't run into those people, Artemis. I'm sorry, but I had to dump it on somebody." Sunday morning, I was at the theater just after breakfast. The films were under my bed at home. I had double-locked my door as I left, just out of nervousness. I'd watch them tonight, perhaps even get rid of them somehow by Monday. Billy had left me a very short list of callbacks. Some others had shown up to audition after all. I was alone here today. The costumer had come and gone. Everyone else was out, even the live-ins, probably at someone's house watching TV and rolling joints. I'd called off rehearsal for the night. I seemed the only one stupid enough to show up with the storm still pounding outside. No one was home that afternoon when I began dialing numbers. Funny how people seem eager to get on the roads in a thundering rain. Cabin fever, I guess. The phone suddenly rang in my hand. I answered to a hoarse male voice that said, "Yeah, I wanted to come by and audition for a part in your show. Is that still possible?" I had come here with surprisingly little to do and found myself just lingering in hangout mode. I didn't want to just meander home yet. "Sure," I said. "You know how to get here?" "Yeah," the voice said. "Give me 15 minutes. "See you then." I pressed the call ended. A final audition. Maybe all 3 rag pickers could be men. I just needed a full cast and was tired of giving actors multiple roles. It would be as crowded as a closet on a submarine backstage. But the show wouldn't look like we were a pack of performing grifters blowing through town. I began watching the clock. I noticed it had a faint buzz. The rain still hammered the roof. It was hypnotic. I sat staring at the stage. The carpenters had begun work on the sets. Scrooge's office backdrop, the Cratchit dining room, Scrooge's dank bedroom, even a 19th century city with a snowbank painted to look sparkling and fluffy stood hanging, staggered on pulley cables. This would be a good show, a fun one to direct, to watch everyone working together to make it good, something I was being paid to do, but would do for free, because I loved it so much. No fame or riches, just satisfaction and enrichment. Maybe we'd even get reviewed in the paper this time. I was slowly going broke and didn't regret a moment of it. There were footsteps upon the stairs to the front door. My audition was here. I went to let him in. He was much bigger than I expected. The raindrops glistened on his pate. No umbrella. The usual rugged dude in a storm, I playfully thought. What hair he still had was damp but white and cottony. His grin possessed both a jolliness and a soft melancholy. "Come into the auditorium and we'll see what you got," I quipped. "Can I do a monologue or you want me to read?" "If you have a monologue," I said. "Either will do." "I'd like to give you my monologue first, and we'll see what happens from there." "Sure." I handed a blank audition form to him as we walked, and he rolled it in his large hands, not much concerned at all. I took my seat, second row. My huge new friend stepped onto the stage. The boards moaned beneath his large booted feet. Go when ready, I said. I'm watching. He stood and pondered for a moment, in what looked distraction. Oh, I'm sorry, I whispered. Start with your name, a slate, and begin. Oh, yeah, sure, he said. My name's Arthur. Arthur, I muttered. Arthur, he repeated. Just call me Art. He stared for a long pause, directly into my eyes. You were at Alex's house yesterday, weren't you? He told you about me, right? Alex? My stomach crunched in a wad. Yeah, Alex. He's dead. I called from your house. Under the bed. Really? A creative guy like you should have done better than that. And scene. Art stepped off the stage and came toward me.